look at that, and a game is starting. But being able to take that away frees up a very important key for you.
I'm just like most people using caps lock, so I always type like I'm trying to shout. It's just because I was using things. And there we go. We are going to have our first game loading up on Blade's Edge Arena. So one of the big things to note right away is Snuts playing a Warlock on Blade's Edge Arena. It's always something that we talk about. That two-tiered arena map really comes to effect if he is getting focused, jump off to that first level, and can always teleport back up. So there you see it on the left side. That is going to be Team Soda Isn't Fair. Snuts on Warlock, Toes on Paladin, Vinruki on Mage. On the right side, the team of Get Some, Soda, Pooks, and Flex.
And I do apologize for having Complexity on the top twice when we defined the teams last time. Of course, you do have members of Complexity on both sides, so that's why I may have messed up and defined those as both Complexity. So I'll fix that after this. But the gates are going to be opening pretty soon. You know, your basic Wizard Cleave setup versus
Arcane Mage and Enhancement Shaman.
Going to have to coin a phrase that doesn't include Cleave in it at some point.
Well, the big thing is Wizard Cleave in this Season 5 gear. Don't look for just huge damage. It's really going to come down to control at key moments and putting both Snuts and Vinruki onto the same target. If they're able to achieve this, that's whenever they're going to score a kill. So look for Soda to be under a lot of pressure, just trying to stay away from CC. And here we go. The gates are open. They're going to go ahead and go at it. Flex coming across already to the middle of the bridge. No wolves out just yet, so there we go. Finally, they're coming out. Not something we're quite used to. Bloodlust already out. A little bit of damage coming across onto Flex. Drops down a little bit, but Soda easily able to keep him up. But look at Vinruki as Toes is caught into a fear. Vinruki drops down to around 10,000 HP. Snuts is hexed as well. So a great job of control from Soda's team so far. Vinruki already having to block. Going to come out early and get top back off.
Flex doing a great job right there. He did shock the poly that was on him, but Snuts looking to find his target, and he's just getting shut down right now.
And it looks like they're still going to sit on to Flex, still sitting at full HP with Shamanistic Rage up. There's a CS on the Toes as they're trying to reestablish onto a target. Vinruki drops down around 10k HP. Big Fear 5,000 HP, and down goes Vinruki as the entire team of Toes was feared. And just that's the story. Flex gets to his target, and down it goes.
Yeah, Soda doing a great job of dropping that huge fear in the center of the bridge. It seems like the players kind of got confused on where they should be standing. You know, standing in the center against in the center of the bridge against a priest, kind of rough.
First game on Blade's Edge Arena between Get Some and Team Soda Isn't Fair, and it appears Team Soda isn't very fair. Get Some up 1-0.
So did you think the map had any play in that whatsoever?
Well, I mean, the big thing was they weren't even really paying attention to Snuts. They just focused on Vinruki the entire time. A lot of CC onto Toes and a few interrupts to stop Snuts damage here and there, and really Get Some just seemed to be in control almost that entire match.
They did. I mean, Flex right away, you know, jumping into the fight, getting those wolves out with the Bloodlust, and, you know, shocking that first sheep, which would have shut down a lot of damage. But, I mean, they dumped damage into him beginning to end.
And one of the big things to look at as well whenever you have an Enhancement Shaman on your team is Dispels. And now Vinruki being healed by Toes on a Paladin, they don't have a lot of buffs up. So one of the biggest things is his Ice Barrier being purged is huge. It's so detrimental, and if he's lucky enough to get it on his first try, that could be the end of it right away. That's basically a block once Flex actually gets to him. So very intense.
They were able to force the block, you know, very early, and continued the damage until he fell over. That big fear at the end.
Watching this game, it's interesting to see these players on the same team. I think that's the first thing that caught my eyes, you know, seeing the names of Flex, Pooks, and Soda on the same team. Then you look on the other side, you got Toast, Nuts, and Vinruki. It's interesting to see these two teams try to work things together. And now we'll be going into the second game shortly, as both teams should be ready to queue up. You do see Ryan Moore standing back there getting them ready to go. Now, they're not able to change up their comps just yet, so we will see that same lineup of Wizard Cleave versus this interesting setup from Get Some. And I don't see any change of strategy for Get Some either. They're going to be looking for Vinruki. They're going to try to shut him down and just basically not allow him to even be a part of the damage. And it's just going to be on Soda just to keep up with the damage that Snuts is able to get out in between interrupts.
Yeah, it seems like Frost Mages are always, or any type of mage, is always a great choice to train because, you know, you can't do much as a mage if you have somebody on you that's going to be shocking and interrupting your big cast. All
right, and we do see them sitting down, so we'll be getting into the game in just a moment. Now, look at the other side of things in Toes, Nuts, and Vinruki, and we do know Toes can play a priest, but in this situation, I've never actually really even seen Wizard Cleave attempted with the priest, but I mean, this is Season 5 gear. You've got to kind of adapt and change things. And I know Snuts can play a few different classes, but Vinruki we've seen mostly on Mage, and I do know he has some Ret Paladin in him. We've seen it in the past, but do you see any of those things
Not
happening?
at all. No, it's the big thing about Wizard Cleave, obviously, with your two choice of healers mainly is going to be your Shaman for your Bloodlust or your Paladin for your Aura Mastery. And that's why, one of the reasons why that comp works so well is those two huge buffs.
All right, and if you're just now joining us, we are in the first game of our All-Star Challenge between Team Soda Isn't Fair and Get Some. After one game played, Get Some is up 1-0. So we're going to be going to the second game shortly. And if you want to catch up on any of the action you've missed, you can head over to gotfrag.com, and it'll be listed all there. And make sure to check out the stats that have been listed from over the year from all of these teams. It's pretty interesting to see exactly how it breaks down.
Yeah, not only breaks down in terms of who they beat and lost, but per map too. And of course, we do have Complexity Black never losing a round on Ring of Valor. It's a huge shock to me, but to see it in the numbers.
And going real quickly to the Ask the Cast thread, and this is something that we've already discussed a lot over the weekend, even away from the stream, away from the venue. A lot of players are talking about is there's already been a mention of upcoming Prot Warrior PvP nerfs.
I mean, it's simple. The biggest, like the most blatant nerf that needs to happen is, you're a tank. I mean, yeah, putting out big numbers players likes, but why isn't that two-piece tier 10 20% extra threat on shield slam instead of 20% extra damage? I mean, look at the elemental two-piece tier 9, how huge of a difference it played with that with the extra damage to lava burst. Flat damage.
But 20% increase on one of the biggest front load. And I mean, it's always been a part of the game, PvE, influencing PvP, especially whenever new tiers of gear does come out. But this comes back to the question, should every spec be viable in Arena?
It's getting to the point where they are actually. I mean, I know I've said it would be harder to balance if there's more, but Blizzard is actually doing a decent job at it now. They took specs such as Prot Anything and made them viable in the arena. So they are slowly getting to the point where every spec is going to have that chance of being a top-rated player.
And one of the big things is you got to look at the difference between viable and top-notch. You're always going to have these comps that are just considered the best, and people will try to mirror what other people are doing and go with it. And honestly, right now, as you said, a lot of comps specs are viable. I mean, we see everything from Boomkins to Feral to everything for everyone almost viable. And now Mage is actually one of the ones that you usually see people play Frost for most of the time. And now we're actually seeing an Arcane Mage in the tournament. So I honestly think that, almost everything, if not everything, is viable, but top-notch, that's debatable. But it does look like we do have our second map going up. Looks like it is going to be played on the Grand Arena for the second game between Get Some and Team Soda Isn't Fair.
And it is going to show up as Complexity again. I will reset that after, though. We are going to jump right in. It is going to be Nagrand for the second round of this match, which is best of 7. They weren't able to change anything. They were given some time to discuss strategies. But same makeups. We are going to have that on your left-hand side. You are going to have the enhanced Shaman of Flex down at the bottom. Soda obviously running Disc. And Poops up top, who was running Arcane last time.
On the other side of things, you do have Complexity. Snuts on Warlock, Vinruki on Mage, and Toes on Paladin. And so last game from Team Get Some, we just saw both Flex and Pooks just focusing on Vinruki the entire time, and basically Soda just easily able to keep up with the damage when it's only Snuts onto a target, and Toes just going through a lot of CC. I mean, you're looking at not only shocks from Flex, but also a counterspell from Pooks and a fear from Soda.
Yeah, and all of those put together is the reason why they're able to score kills so quickly. Now, out of the gate, we are going to be following Pooks to see how he handles playing, this quite a different spec than he's used to.
Game 2 of Get Some versus Team Soda Isn't Fair. We do see Pooks kind of hanging back. Once again with Venruki targeted, Snuts is going to go ahead and head out to the middle. They're going to put a little damage into him, but Flex already going across the arena, going behind the opposing pillar and trying to get onto his target, but a very early deep freeze onto Flex. Still not much damage coming out yet. Fear onto Soda, though. Looks like he's going to sit through it in a CS while he's feared, so not going to do much there. A little miscue from Venruki. Flex still caught into the side of a Nova, not really able to get to Venruki yet, who did get a freedom, so he's able to get far, far away from Flex. And now we saw a nice grounding there trying to stop the incoming Shatter, and he's finally able to get back over to Venruki. 1,300 HP just like that. Blocks finally. MD comes in. He's already out of block. Flex trying to get back across to him. We do see Sprint, and he's finally getting there. 5,000 HP. Tries to invis, and down goes Venruki like it's nothing.
We had Pooks on our screen during that kill, and I mean, you saw him hit that AP after he gets the Missile Barrage proc, and it was just dumping. I mean, he went from about 80% hit point down to 20%. I mean, I was afraid he wasn't going to block. That's how fast that damage was.
So the team of Get Some being aggressive from start to finish, almost making it look too easy there, and Team Soda Isn't Fair having a very tough time. Venruki once again under pressure from start to finish, even tried to stand behind his pillar. Flex didn't even care, runs back there, gets deep freeze, and probably stood there for literally 10 to 15 seconds between Roots and Novas. And still, once he finally gets to his target, that's it. Drops him down to nothing. 1,300 HP, gets away a little bit, even a little bit of a late block, but he was able to get it off. MD immediately comes in, and Venruki just not able to stay up through that damage.
Yeah, when Arcane Mages, when they get their procs up, able to hit that AP on top of it, along with Flex connecting onto his target, dead.
All right, and this is after the second map, so both of these teams will have the opportunity to change up specs, comps, or anything to go along with it. And now Get Some already up 2-0 after 2 games played. This is best of 7, so the first team with 4 wins will win this series.
And what do you think that they can do to change? I mean, you talk about let's see, Team Soda Isn't Fair. Toes can play a few healers. We know Snuts, I watched him playing a Paladin yesterday. It wasn't pretty, to be honest, just to be straight honest. He was playing on Dalaran. He's a very, very vocal player. Funny guy to stand behind and watch. You know, he's always calling things out. You know, very vocal, which is good. It's always good to have somebody on your team that's calling out everything they can see. And then, of course, Venruki, who we've seen has played Ret before. I have a feeling he won't be playing it right now. So, I mean, there isn't that many things that they can run.
Yeah, and I mean, this is, kind of a fun little tournament for these players in the All-Star Challenge, but it's still a game of play to win. It's still $1,000 for first place. You got to believe they're going to want to try to change something up, because I honestly just don't think this comp is going to work for them.
No, it's especially this team with the enhanced shaman. I mean, with those spam purges on your mage, I mean, it's always going to be Venruki, the person that's going to be getting hit. And
now you see it, both teams kind of talking it over. And kind of quiet on the side of Team Soda Isn't Fair, and of course they have to fight Team Soda first. So
of course.
And we do see Ryan Moore heading over behind the team of Get Some, trying to see if they're locked in and ready to go. And as soon as they are, we will get queued back up and go back into these games. And of course, after this series, we'll go right back into the next one, probably with just a short break between the team chosen by Collective of Don't Train Me and then the team chosen by number 1, Buff Priest.
Looks like our third round in this match, best of 7, is going to be on Blade's Edge Arena yet again. The whole elevator action of the Warlock teleport didn't really come into effect because
you can't
he's
really
only
do
being
anything.
Controlled. That's it. Yeah, there's not a, he wasn't being trained. It's all about Venruki getting killed.
And now, also, it's not just about the damage that Flex and Pooks are putting out, but it's the control that this comp also comes along with. Of course, Hex and Poly, not a huge story there, but the shocks and CS just making Toes fall behind and putting Venruki in a lot of trouble. And also when you stack it with a Fear from Soda and no real way to break it except for Devour from Snuts, and you can guarantee there's going to be plenty of debuffs up from Pooks whenever he does go for a Poly that he wants to stick.
Now, just to run down the UI, some people haven't seen it too often. Top left is going to be your team with the unit frames. Obviously, this is the Wizard Cleave that we'll be watching. Now, down at the bottom, this is going to be who we're following down here. This is their last cast spell. It's going to be a couple of them. If they get interrupted, there's going to be a little X and what interrupted them. And then these are their cooldowns.
All right, gates have opened. Game 3, Team Get Some versus Team Soda Isn't Fair. Venruki going to hang way back. He does not want to be started on too early. And now you see it's Nuts going to run out to the middle. And already Flex popping those wolves and coming right across the bridge. And there's a CS and a slow on to Nuts. And it looks like that control's already starting. But Venruki trying to get away, not taking a lot of damage just yet. But Flex is just going to chase him around this entire arena. We do have a fear onto Soda, though. Toes dropping a little low as we do see some cast coming in from Venruki, but Flex dropping down around 15,000, fully dotted up from Snuts, and it looks like a little bit of damage finally coming out from the team of Team Soda Isn't Fair.
Now they are controlling Pooks right now and putting damage onto Flex. Venruki's freedom lasted, under a second. So lots and lots of purges there.
And now you see a little bit of control coming out from Venruki as he's actually able to try to control this game. And some damage going on to Flex as he's going to drop down to 15,000 as he swapped over to Snuts. Snuts sitting around 10k HP or so, but some cast coming in from Venruki. But Flex easily kept up by Soda. And now we're seeing a little bit of a slower game than what we're used to. And once again, there's that freedom that's instantly purged. Now a lot of dots on the Flex dropping down to 10k. You do see that Death Coil come across, but Venruki himself dropping below 10k, and there's that counterspell onto Toes. As Venruki is trying to get away, Flex is coming across, Venruki blinking back through and will have to block.
Master Spell didn't land right there. Flex is down to half health right now with a couple dots on him, plus that Curse of Elements in a deep freeze right now, down to 3,000 hit points, getting low. We hear the screams from the players. Oh, getting a couple heals from Soda right there, but he ends up going down.
So after being down 2-0, we're seeing a little bit of life here from Team Soda Isn't Fair. We hear the shouts of Snuts as they were going for that kill, and they're still going to have to finish this out. As you can believe, these players are going to play it through to the end. Pook's caught into a fear, and Soda in a lot of trouble. But honestly, great job by Venruki there of just kiting around away from Flex. Even with a lot of close calls you saw when Flex finally did get over to him, Venruki would just immediately blink and try to get away from the damage that he knew was coming.
Pook's trying to run this one out all the way to the end with the slow onto Venruki and a slow fall right there. Pook's kind of showing off right at the end up until the last second. And so 2-1 right now, and the big defining factor in that match right there was Venruki getting away at the start. We saw him immediately get attacked by those wolves. He dropped down to the bottom and ran under the pillars, trying to break up that damage coming from Pooks also. He did a great job. For a while, we saw them switch onto Toes because Flex was controlled, but they went immediately back onto Venruki and tried to make something happen. But and even when they tried to switch onto Snuts, he had his portal up top, was able to get away. Oh, that's the wrong pillar right there. Can't walk through that one.
And now Pooks and Soda just playing it out to the very end. And you do see Venruki very low on mana, but easily going to get that back as his mana gem does come back up. Venruki dropping down about 13,000 HP, but Pooks getting very low on mana as well. Fear on the Snuts will go ahead and trinket that. Toes' bubble is down, but they're just not able to actually score another kill at this point.
Yeah, with Soda able to keep Pooks alive, I mean, they can draw this game out for a while. The dots, they haven't been able to get very many UAs up.
And now Pook's having to block in that situation, and Soda getting very low on mana. They're going to eventually win this, it does look like, but it's just going to take a little bit for these teams. Nobody's going to give it up easy. It's just not going to happen.
Just in case, wow, can hardly see him, but Toes is hiding behind the bottom part of the bridge drinking, so that's probably not very good for Soda and Pooks.
And now you see Pooks trying to set up a little bit of damage on the Venruki, but as he jumps down, and Soda with that penance will finally put him out of mana. And now you see Pooks just kind of chasing around Toes, but it should be over here soon. Venruki going to step off and pick up his mana as well. And now HOJ onto Soda, going to go ahead and trinket that, but he's still sitting around 10,000 HP or so. Not many dots rolling as you do see the wonderful game of Ring Around the Pillar being played.
Yeah, no, there's a UA up on Soda, which means that all those dots are going to be able to be stacked on him without any hope of dispel, but he's completely out of mana, and as you can see, all his cooldowns have been used. He is in trouble.
And now Venruki coming around, and finally looks like Soda will go down, leaving Pooks the last man standing, and that'll do it. After 3 games, Get Some up 2 over Team Soda Isn't Fair 1.
So that's little boost of confidence for this team. It's exactly what they needed. They know that they have to make their opening a lot better. That time, everything that needed to happen happened. Venruki got away. He was able to pull the game out, was able to crowd control Flex, force them to target swap onto Toes. Venruki still wasn't a viable target at that point. And so they tried to go on Snuts, and being Blade's Edge, Snuts got out of there immediately and was able to start stacking dots, being almost completely out of the battle.
And Blade's Edge definitely being a huge factor there, giving Venruki that extra room to really work with at both levels and just basically kiting around Flex long enough to score a kill. And we said it earlier, we didn't think they were going to be able to do it with this comp, and it looks like they were able to bring it back.
And again, it is going to be on Blade's Edge. The rule hasn't come into effect yet. It would be after 3, correct? Yeah. So this is going to be our third round on Blade's Edge. Of course, the first time, get some easily winning on Blade's Edge. Second time, completely different story. Team Soda isn't fair, kind of overcoming their team name right there.
Yeah, and one of the big things that we really didn't talk about much, though, is actually Snuts in that Wizard Cleave setup deciding to go UA over Destruction, and it really worked out for him in the end there. I mean, he was able to get damage rolling onto Flex and eventually score that kill when really they didn't have the burst to go along with Destruction because Venruki was never able to be a part of any damage.
Yeah, and we talk about Wizard Cleave having two healer options, basically. We are going to be following Venruki out at the start because he's definitely going to be the target again, but they could go on Snuts.
And now you see Flex actually going to be going on to Snuts, who's playing forward here, trying to get a little damage going, not going to swap yet. There's that early Hex coming out, going to be immediately broken. And now you see him just trying to stick onto Snuts. It looks like they're going to change this up. There's the counterspell onto Snuts, and just damage is being poured into Snuts with a little bit of control on Toes. There's a freedom finally onto Snuts as Flex is going to go ahead and perch it off and get right back onto his target. But Flex, once again, caught in that deep freeze, followed by a death coil with full dots rolling, so he's going to be taking a little bit of damage as well.
And Snuts right now is trying to get as many dots and control up on Flex, actually. Venruki down to half right now, but look at all those dots onto Flex.
And now you see the swap coming over from Get Some as well, though, as it looks like his Flex was going to try to get to Venruki there for a little bit, but now he's back onto Snuts once again, and we do see a little bit of damage coming in across from Poogs, but a lot of dots still ticking onto Flex, and control is just being poured onto Toes, but he has not had to bubble yet.
Now Flex is going to be trying to attack. Looks like they're switching to Venruki, but he's being controlled completely down to 7,000 hit points right now. He's already used his Shamanistic Rage. There we go, Pain Suppression onto him, stopping a lot of that damage.
And now he finally does make it across over to Venruki, but Venruki immediately going to Nova and just kite away from the situation as Flex is having a tough time getting over to any of the targets he wants to.
Taking a lot of damage too. Soda, using his LOS as much as he can, as you can see up top on your screen. Using that penance and cutting it short, actually, so you can get that shield back up.
But Venruki getting very low there for a moment, but not having to block still yet. And Flex is actually going to kite back over and get onto Snuts, but Novid once again from the pet of Venruki, so Flex is being controlled very well. And there's that portal we were talking about, but Snuts is getting out of the situation. Now Flex is going to go ahead and head back over behind the pillar and get picked back up by Soda. So now kind of a little bit of a reset here, but it looks like Venruki is down a little farther down the ramp. So Flex trying to get over to him, but once again, Feared and Novid still unable to get to a target.
Soda had a minute there to him hope and get his mana back up, but he's using almost all of it right now. Flex is just taking a ton of damage. Aether Jade in a bad spot right now, trying to cast a Hex, which he didn't get off, it looks like, but his Shamanistic Rage is up right now, taking a little less damage.
And great counterspell from Venruki onto Flex. Flex goes down as he tries to get down to that bottom ramp. Wow, Flex just playing the aggressor, going up the ramp, getting HOJ completely dotted up. And as soon as he came out, you saw him try to get that Hex off, and Venruki acknowledged the situation and just decided to CS Flex there.
Yeah, I mean, he was in a bad situation right there, kind of putting himself a tiny bit out of position, out of line of sight of his healer.
So after 4 games played between Get Some and Team Soda Isn't Fair, we are tied up at 2-2 when things were looking grim for Team Soda Isn't Fair, down 0-2 at that point. They are able to come back and completely change it up. Now when the clutch situation starts, especially for the team at Get Some, where they have that 4-man roster.
They do, but it's 2-2. We've talked about this so many times in the past. When games come down to the 2-2, both teams are tied. Both have taken rounds that were completely in their favor. I mean, that round did last a lot longer that time, but I mean, they were controlling Flex beginning to end.
And now one thing that has to be in the back of Get Some's mind is Blade has been played 3 times. So we will not see that again in this series. And honestly, it has been a great influence on the series so far because it just gives both Snuts and Venruki that extra room to kite with. And I mean, you see how much of a pain it is for Flex to even get to a target when playing against that comp. And not only that, but when they have so many different options, even when he finally gets there, I think that they might just kind of put this on map choice right now and kind of stick with what they're running. But I mean, Azael might want to get in there, and we know he can play a lot of different things.
Yeah, and I mean, Blade's Edge, every time that they switched to Snuts, he was out of there. And that's a huge, I mean, look at how much DPS time you've lost right then. I mean, even if he ports up with half-life, his healer knows that he has to position himself where he can heal where the portal lands.
And a big thing for both of these teams, actually, is no true form of MS, meaning that almost full heals will be coming through the entire time. Once Snuts does port up top, he could sit there at half HP while his healer is CC'd. And once he finally comes out, all it's going to take is a single heal and generally top him back off.
And this is what we like to see. Look at this. We do have that 4th player right there of Azael, and they are talking strats right now, trying to figure out what to run. But, I mean, where is Flex? Oh, there he is. Okay. Flex is actually behind Azael right now. Couldn't see him because he's kind of hunched down, trying to be kind of secretive, making sure whoever that girl is in the back isn't hearing them and going to run over and it's a spy.
But, of course, these teams will have a few minutes to talk things over and decide what they're going to go with. This is best of 7, meaning the first team with 4 wins will take the series. Losing team will be knocked down to the losers bracket, but we won't know who they'll play until we play our next series in the first round here for the All-Star Challenge. But make sure any of the action you miss, you can check out at gotfrag.com, MMO-champion.com, and MLGpro.com.
And, of course, GameBattles.com is another site where lots of console players are there. I got to talk to one of the admins on the site at one of the past events, and it's amazing how many players they have on that site.
And also, as a reminder, these guys are playing for $1,000 for the first place in the All-Star Challenge. And the draft that happened earlier, you can catch up with it on the site as well. But basically, each healer from these sponsored teams was taken and put into basically a draft scenario where they could not pick any of their members from their own team and had to go with another team. And they went one by one, and we saw a lot of interesting choices, and it's only going to get crazier as this thing goes on.
I think this match we kind of knew what they were going to run, or had an idea rather, especially, of course, Team Soda isn't fair. I mean, just by the players and what they play, we knew that they were going to be running that flavor of Wizard Cleave. Get Some was kind of up in the air, but we knew that Flex is such a great enhancement shaman. Why wouldn't you use him?
And also, I mean, at our first event of the year, actually at Dallas, that's whenever we first saw this team of Complexity Black, Check 6, EMG, whatever you want to call them, but they showed up playing PhD there, and Flex playing the DK at that tournament and doing a great job, especially considering at that point in this year, no one really knew who they all were.
Yeah, I mean, they played online together. People who were BG9 would know that, Twix has always been around, as that great hunter. But yeah, in the tournament scene, they were basically nobodies coming into it.
And then after that, we moved on to the next event where, what were they for that event? Check 6 by then? No,
I think they were still EMG.
Still EMG then, but that was a change in healer. That's whenever we actually saw Kent, a very well-known player, be picked up by EMG, and then with Twix and Flex and play through there. And next event, things had to change up again, and that's where they got Toes, who had originally played with Gravitas. So a lot of these players had been swapping back and forth between the sponsors, and that's when you really know that it's one of the top players out there.
Looks like the teams are going to be sitting back down, and that is a tournament admin, Ryan Moore, that we saw before. That was the head official of the draft that we did. It was neat to see the live draft. We're kind of struggling to hear who everyone picked, but I mean, I think we were right every time.
And it was interesting to see number 1 up there as well, who also made probably one of the most interesting choices there at the end. Whenever he had a lot of options to go with, he ends up picking both rogues.
Yeah, we'll have to see if that's going to pay off, if he does have the insight that we don't, I guess. But his team name, of course, is Buff Priest.
All right, and you're just now joining us. We are live for the Major League Gaming 2009 PC circuit played on HB here in Orlando. It's going to be a great weekend. Today's a little bit of fun with the All-Star Challenge, and tomorrow is all serious with the championships, where we have the top 4 teams from over the year of 2009 that came together. And now one of the big things and the reason why you see a lot of these changes was points followed the players, not the team. So that's why you see things like SK and EG making the team together and forming SkiG and able to attend to this event. So it's going to be interesting to see what team will be able to be called the champions of 2009.
Yeah, and I mean, we talk about these players playing online together a lot, and that SKEG team, with all the players transferring back into BlackRock onto BG9, everyone's there right now. So forming and practicing for them probably wasn't a huge problem.
It's not one of the great things about a tournament scene as well. It's a chance for all of us to sit down, and before the thing even gets going, we kind of all sat down this morning and played a few games ourselves. And it's always a lot of fun, and that's one of the great things about BG9 is being able to just hop on, grab a couple of players, even though they might be well known. You can just throw together a comp, and it's usually a great time.
So they do have that time right now as we look over to the players. Looks like they are getting ready, though, to queue back up. And, 2-2. I
would have never have thought that after watching those first 2 games.
No, I know. It's completely different. And as you can see there, there's number 1 in the back, kind of talking to JP and trying to decide what's going on. And Azael is adjusting the headset, making sure that they'll be able to communicate with their team. And these players aren't using Vent; they're using I do believe it's the Astro setup, where it's basically the game sounds go into these center control boxes. They're really neat. You see the Halo players with them all the time, because you can't use a Ventrilo server when you're playing Halo. So it basically takes the sound from your console and goes into this box, and then the box has the mic in and the sound in, and then it daisy chains basically to your teammates. So it's really neat. I got to try it a couple events ago, and that's the reason why all these Halo players, you see them walking around with those Astro headsets, because they all use it.
So this is going to be the final event for the 2009 PC circuit, and I'm sure there's going to be plenty of more action to come up in 2010. But one of the interesting things to talk about, as always with an MMO, as an esport, is there's always going to be changes on the way, and there's going to be a huge change probably within the next year or so in the form of Cataclysm. Oh yeah, and I mean, Blizzard basically gets another chance to rebalance everything. Wrath has been a very, very, very fast game. And, a lot of players like it. Some players don't. But we'll have to see with the evolution of the new racials coming in, which we've talked about before. I mean, they took Rocket Boots out of the arena, and then they gave it to Worgens. So maybe Blizzard has this crystal ball, and they know exactly what they're going to do in terms of balance, whether it's, restrict racials from arena or give, buff every racial to the point where it's overpowered, Well, I think one of the most interesting things to look at with Cataclysm upcoming, of course, is going to be rated battlegrounds. And a lot of people have said, everybody remembers back when Warsong originally came out, and it was a huge deal between guilds to see who was the best. And I think it would be even more fun now that we have so much competition. And will it be as popular as Arena?
Yeah, it's looking at what they've announced so far, it seems like just like in MLG, the rating follows the player, not the whole team, because I do agree. I mean, look at the amount of games played on 2s versus 3s versus 5s. 2s, you log on, you say, hey, let's do 2s, and you queue up. 3s, it's, you have to get 2 people coordinated, make sure they're not slaying dragons or something like that, trying to get them together. And then you look at 5s, it's like you have to schedule 2 weeks in advance and, make sure that everyone has their, they're not working or they're not raiding or anything like that. So imagine trying to keep 10 specific players. It was tough back in the day, even when you weren't locked to any sort of roster, getting everyone together for Warsong. So, rated battlegrounds is going to be really interesting.
And now, real quick, while we have a little bit of downtime, we will go over to gotfrag.com to the forums, and we'll check out the Ask the Cast thread. And something that always comes up, number 36 Warrior Tim asks, what do you think about the new Legendary? And it's a constant discussion about PvE gear and PvP.
Yeah, you're not going to avoid it. I know a lot of players don't like it, but raiding right now, honestly, is the normal modes is the easiest it's ever been. I don't raid too often, but towards the end of every expansion, I join a guild and do all the content just to see it. And I mean, TSC was the joke. I mean, really, it was so easy. And I just did the first few bosses of Ice Crown, and I mean, it didn't seem that hard whatsoever compared. I mean, I heard the hard modes are going to be absolutely crazy, like Sunwell hard, and I can't wait for that.
Well, I mean, that's one of the great things about the content now with the modes of, doing a regular normal mode and then moving on to hard modes is everyone gets to see the content.
Exactly,
so that's always a great thing. But, focusing more on the question, talking about these procs with the new weapons, and that's something that Blizzard has stated is that's one of the ways they want to start doing gear. Instead of just adding more AP, more strength, more whatever, and of course all of that's going to change whenever Cataclysm comes as well, they're going to start adding interesting procs to weapons. And of course, there's going to be some that will be amazing for Arena, and Bryn Troll being one of them.
Oh, yeah.
And, it goes on and on. But, I'm all for gear having a little bit of flavor to it. But it's just a question of, will there be things that are too much here and there? And honestly, I don't think we're ever going to see another Warglaive situation. Like, that was a totally different ballgame, pretty much, as far as things go.
Even after they were nerfed, even after that proc or the value of haste was nerfed, they were still just amazing.
So it looks like these two teams are ready to go, and it looks like they did get Blade's Edge Arena, so we will wait for these guys to leave the arena and re-queue, as that will be the 4th time that we have played it. And now it looks like we might have a little bit of change in comp too, but we won't spoil it just yet. We'll make sure once we zone into it here. But just looking over at the table, we do see a different player sitting in, and it looks like that Azael has been put in, the last guy to be picked.
Not only Azael, but the name that popped up wasn't his Warlock's name. It was his Warriors.
So, going to be a change for this team, and we're going to wait for these guys to get into a different map, because we do want to make sure we keep diversity whenever it comes to these teams playing against each other.
And they are going to be queuing back up immediately, since they did see that Blade's Edge Arena, and that rule is going to come into effect, where you can't have a map more than 3 times in a best of 7.
So how great would it be for Toe's team to come out with a team named Team Soda Isn't Fair and actually beat them in the first series?
Hey, I mean, these are tournament quality players. There isn't one player at this tournament that you could say, oh, he's a bad player. It looks like Ring of Valor is coming up. But, I mean, every player has a chance, or every team has a chance of winning this just because of the strength of the players.
Okay, and it looks like Ring of Valor is going to be loading up. And we'll be joining up with these players just in a moment, and you will see exactly what the change is. So that, like we said, this tournament's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to see a lot of different comps. These guys kind of having fun with things. And honestly, this gives you a chance to see these professional players playing, these different specs and things out there that a lot of you guys do ask about in the Ask the Cast thread. And it's great to see some change here and there, and that's why we said it's going to be fun.
Oh, yeah, and I was able to rename one of the teams, but not the other. So on the top left is going to be the team of Get Some, and as you can see, TSIF, which is Team Soda Isn't Fair, which is now 2-2 facing the team that isn't fair.
So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the change that you see. The team of Get Some, Flex, still on a Shaman, and now you have a Druid in. Of course, that's going to be Soda playing the Druid, and now you have Azael in on a Warrior.
Yeah, so this was the original meaning of Cleave. That season 3, season 4, when Armor Pen came out in 5s, when you ran a Warrior and an Enhancement Shaman, that's where this comes from. So we are going to see the original Cleave right here.
And it even got worse in 5s as people figured out, hey, we can just get to a target and all go there. And hey, look, we don't even have to do anything else. But yes, the birth of Cleave did start with Enhancement Shamans and Warriors. And it looks like the elevators are going to be going up. We will be following Azael on the Warrior for the team of Get Some. Tied up 2-2 Ring of Valor.
And now we do have... it is a graphical bud, as you guys know at home, to watch. He is actually wearing gear. Wow, really early lust right there, which is what Flex likes to do. But look at how much control is on Azael. He's doing nothing right now. There we go. Now we see him getting onto Snuts, who is going to be their target. And wow, really early Blade Storm right there.
And also something to note as well, Snuts did go back to Destruction, as you see a lot of damage being put onto Flex, already using Shamanistic Rage with Soda on Druid trying to pick him back up. And now you see Azael just being controlled. HOJ into a poly, and just be not able to get to his target. And Flex having a problem as well, but once they both get to the same target, expect for things to happen. Snuts going to go ahead and catch that freedom and get out of there. And there we go, as you see Azael finally getting back over to him, but a lot of damage on the Flex still, but Snuts drops down to 3 3,000 HP. There's the bop at the end, but if Flex gets over there, expect for it to be taken off quickly. But wow, there's that spike in damage we expect. But look at Soda getting very low on mana at this point.
Oh man, Vamruki is having a field day in this. There we go. He's gonna block out of his Hex. Actually, he is controlling this double melee team so well.
And now you see it's Snuts getting low once again, but a lot of damage onto Flex, dropping very low, 10,000 HP. In comes the Chaos Boat, down to 3,000 HP, getting healed back up, but the HOTS are still ticking. As you see Flex trying to get over to Snuts, but unable to, drops down around 10k HP. And now you see a Sat coming across as well, trying to mitigate some of that damage. But still, just the control that's being put onto the team of Get Some.
Yeah, they're not doing that much damage overall, or as much as they could. But there we go. The MMS is back up on Snuts, who does have the freedom. It is purged off, and oh, that wasn't too well of a timed Blade Storm on our screen. He might have been closer on his screen, though. Snuts down to half, teleporting away, trying to find his healer right there, sticking behind the pillar until he knows he's in position.
And now you see Toes caught into a Cyclone. Snuts down to 2,000 HP, and Azael puts him down. And there we go. Enhanced Shaman, Warrior, Druid for the team of Get Some. Going to take another win against Team Soda Isn't Fair and bring it to 3-2.
That was a really tough situation for Snuts right there. He was behind the pillar, which means he wasn't going to be charged. That pillar was about to go down too, so he had to gamble between, do I come out and try to get that shock after the Cyclone fades, on Toes, or do I sit behind the pillar and wait? And he chose to stick his head out, got charged, and smashed.
Well, and great job by Soda there on Druid. Just clutch Cyclone in a moment to finally score a kill on the Snuts.
Yeah, the big thing that changed at the beginning of that match towards the middle and end was Vamruki was completely controlling those two melees, up and down, all over the map. And then we started to see, we had Vamruki on our screen for a little while, and we saw the Cyclones come out, and that changed things completely.
And now we do have these players queuing up immediately. No changes being able to be made to their comps just yet. We're going to wait just a few minutes as they did get Blade Edge Arena again, so we're not going to let the players play into that arena, and we're going to wait for them to queue into a different one. So this series so far has been back and forth.
Oh, it really has, and we're going to see a new map right now, Runes of Lordaeron, actually. But looking at the damage numbers from before, Azael doubled the damage of Flex. They were really concerned about Flex's damage, but Azael doing some clutch damage in that match. With the early Blade Storm was, maybe it was to break them up or punish the fact that the teams are stacking onto each other.
So Ring of Valor going to be played again in kind of a rough map for the team of Team Soda Isn't Fair, because they kind of out in the open, but you can look at it from the other side of thing as well. They're always going to have LOS, and with two casters on your team, that is pretty huge, but nowhere for Toes to go. So as those hexes start going through, well, even though they do have decurse from Vamruki, all it takes is that little bit of interrupt on the Toes to slow down his healing, making him fall behind, and either Snuts or Vamruki can be put down quickly, especially against an Enhancement Shaman and a Warrior.
Oh yeah, and I mean, a Paladin has to cast basically everything other than that shock. So anytime that he gets locked out by Flex, even for the slightest moment, you fall behind in healing, it's pretty bad.
So Ring of Valor going to be played for the 6th map between Team Soda Isn't Fair and Get Some. Now, first 2 games goes to Get Some, 2-0. The next 2 games come back, no comp change, and Team Soda Isn't Fair is able to tie it up. And now it's actually Get Some that decides to change it up, and now they're able to take out a win.
Yeah, it wasn't the map that decided it either. I mean, both these teams have a lot of opportunities, specifically on this map, to score kills.
And one of the big things is it's not a lot of success for Snuts on destruction, but let's go ahead and see how things go, as we are going to be following Snuts as he was the target last game, as he's going to try to get across and get a portal up, but there's already Azael coming across, and that portal's kind of positioned out in the open, but he just has to get it down and get out of there because he knows the damage is coming. And now you see the control once again, and already there's an early bloodlust as they're trying to establish on the Snuts, and there's that Blade Storm. Snuts immediately going to portal out and get away from there. And now you see them both just kind of kiting around that pillar, and now you see a War Stomp and a Cyclone come in from Soda onto Toes, so there's the control starting once again. Yeah,
Vamruki is just having his way with these 2 melee. I mean, you see the Sheeps, the Novas, the Freezes, the Polys, and look, Flex down to half health right now. Snuts bouncing up and down, but still staying above half right now, but lots of damage. There's that bop that was needed, purged off instantly.
But look at Flex down to 3k HP as you see that burst from this Wizard Cleave, and down goes Flex. And that's what you kind of expect from a Destro Lock and a Mage that are left open and both being able to channel into one target. And now you see Innervate being used, but leaving a Warrior and a Druid versus this setup is not going to be good. As you see, that amount of control they're able to put out is incredible.
Yeah, now that Azael can only go on one target right now, so the second he goes on one, the other caster is going to be casting on him.
So 6 games played, and it looks like we're going to be tied up at 3-3, coming down to that 7th and final game.
No, yeah, Toes is at half mana right now. Snut's full life, even though he has an MS. But look at the dots are just ticking away.
Recklessness. Recklessness Blade Storm from Azael.
And he's going for broke right now. You have to go for something. Maybe he'll get some lucky crits, and nope. And Snuts did take a lot of damage right there, and is almost out of mana. But Warlock.
Yeah, and they're just going to go ahead and get a sheep off onto Azael and play it safe here. And now it looks like they're going to go ahead and swap over to Soda, but Soda doing a great job of keeping himself up. But now's when things start to get a little rough, as they do know Bladestorm is down. And there's an HOJ onto Azael, leaving him out in the open. Fear onto Soda with a spell lock, and in comes that big damage onto Azael. Should be going down in just a minute here, but Toes has got plenty of mana to keep up with the situation.
It's a good move right there, intervening over to Soda, and then running back, but not going to be able to score a 2v3 kill at all.
Pretty close there with the Recklessness Bladestorm, but not going to do it, as Azael, last man standing, is going to go down. And there we go, tied up 3-3 between Get Some and Team Soda Isn't Fair.
And again, look at the damage difference. I mean, obviously the game was stretched out a lot longer towards the end for Azael, but Flex was controlled. So much control by Venruki. He's the one that made things happen in that match.
So, of course, after the 2nd, 4th, and 6th game, we will give both of these teams an opportunity to change their comps, classes, anything they decide on. So we'll give them a few minutes. But first series of the All-Star Challenge coming down to the 7th and final game. Yeah,
I mean, it was, you name your team, Team Soda Isn't Fair, and now you're bringing them down to that last round in your first match. I mean, it shows how great these players are and how well they can adapt, seeing situations such as that one. I mean, Ring of Valor, when your two casters have your target in line of sight, 90% of that fight.
And as you saw on your screen there for a minute, just taking a quick look at Get Some, as they're kind of just sitting at the character select screen, and we talked about it, the meta game that comes into a tournament that's set up like this with people that can play so many classes. You want to use that time up to kind of try to make the other team think one thing and do another.
Of course. And they're going to try to feign the swap maybe now that he's gone to character screen. Maybe Druid wasn't the greatest choice in that situation because of the crowd control. Maybe they'll swap over to Paladin or Priest for those dispels. And we see Reels, I think he's acting out what Azael was during that fight right there.
And now that is Team Soda Isn't Fair, and you see Toes, Nuts, and Venruki. And we were talking about it earlier, they don't have a lot of different things they can run, and we thought after those first 2 games that they really had to try something, but all they did was fix a few things, and of course that swap from Snuts over to Affliction really worked out for them in a couple games, and they're able to bring it back. Now sitting at 3-3, this is when the pressure's on, specifically in a double elimination tournament where one round decides if you stay in the winner's bracket or you go to the losers.
Yeah, I think they are going to swap to what I suggested, or what I was going to guess what they would do, and they really were dominated by crowd control early. Now, what do you think about the dynamic of adding this Priest in instead of the Druid?
It's going to give a Dispel, which is huge, but the question is, will he be able to keep up with the burst? And it looks like we're going to go ahead and load up an arena. We'll have to see if either of these teams do decide to change anything up, but, if he does make the switch to Priest, it will allow him to keep at least one of his melee onto a target. Quick dispels can be huge in a matchup like this where all they need to do is establish 2 globals under one target.
Oh, yeah. Now, this is going to play a little bit different. This map does have the LOS breaking up in a few different areas. Obviously, we don't have that huge starting area like we had before that people can go and hide and LOS from. But the center area, when you talk about 2 casters needing to dump, heavy damage at the same time or it's going to be healed up. However, with a Priest, it's a little bit different. His burst healing, comes from the Penance, obviously, but no MS is, that's huge.
And one of the confident things we've seen from some of the great priests in the past is throwing up pain suppression when they know damage is coming and focusing on being offensive, or he can dispel in those situations to keep both of his melee and not have to heal right away. And that's one of the great strengths of a priest, is those instants on a move, always keeping them in the fight.
Now, not only the dynamic of having a priest in there, their target changed. I mean, they can go on Venruki now. Now that they can get that block away instantly, they have the Mass Dispel onto Toes and, able to control him if he tries to bubble. It's a completely different game with a priest.
All right, gates have opened. It all comes down to this. Team Soda Isn't Fair versus Get Some. Here those melee go, and you see those dispels already being used. Very early Bloodlust as they're going to establish immediately onto Snuts. And now you see a Fear coming across, but Flex just sticking onto his target as Zale comes back through as well. Soda caught into a poly for a moment, and now we see a little bit of damage rolling, but there's that Blade Storm, which he immediately will teleport away from. And you still see that control coming across, but Soda doing a great job of keeping both of his teammates in there. And now Snuts going to be in a little bit of trouble. He's not going to have any way to portal out of there, and you can expect once that bop comes through this for Flex to immediately try to get rid of it. Sack was up for about a second. Immediately is going to be purged. Now you see a Fear onto Soda once again, but Snuts dipping down to 10,000 HP as both those immediately, and his pet's very low as well and about to go down. There's the bop, and it's immediately purged, but he's able to get a couple steps.
Oh, his pet's almost dead, 9% hit points, and there we go. Now he has a heal on it. Soda had to trinket very, very, very early with one of the polys up top. He's been trying to dance in and out of line of sight, but Flex, there we go. The UA is up on Flex, followed by that Haunt. The Penance is going to pick him back up to full, though. Soda actually burned his Divine Hymn very early and didn't hit anything with it. He canceled it almost immediately.
Now Flex does have his second Hex up, so expect that to be coming across very soon. And now Snut's going to be in a little bit of trouble. Once again, that drops down about 13,000 HP, and they're just trying to get over to a target. Now we see a Fear in an HOJ onto Soda. Snut still sitting around 12,000 HP. Venruki did have to block. Soda caught into a poly. There's the portal. And another Blade Storm as Flex is going to opt to LOS while he sees his Soda caught into that poly, knowing he has no way out.
Yeah, Snuts, there we go. Now he gets a heal. But Flex down to 9,000 hit points right now. Soda in that deep freeze on the opposite side of the pillar. Flex is in trouble right here.
3,000 HP, UA up, and that'll do it. And Flex goes down, but don't give up just yet. Azale going to stick on to Snuts. The Toe's down to very little mana. You can expect they're going to play this out.
Oh, yeah, those Dispels coming on to, wow, lots and lots of control, even with that Priest dispelling.
There you see it, Winter's Chill being stacked up and those Dispels coming across. Now Haunt going up as well. No more Dispels going to be coming across. HOJ, Azale in a lot of trouble. He's going to go down. He's going to come across, sitting around 4k HP. Those dots are ticking as Soda's caught into another poly, and that'll do it. Team Soda Isn't Fair appears not to be true. They're going to topple Team Get Some 4-3 in our first series of the All-Star Challenge.
This All-Stars Challenge is exciting already. I mean, not only did we have the draft and had some just crazy picks that we didn't understand to begin with, now we have Team Soda Isn't Fair naming their team because they think Team Soda Isn't Fair. Get Some, rather, who had that 4-player roster, which they used very effectively.
All right, and that'll do it for our first series. We're going to take a short commercial break, but when we come back, we will have the two remaining teams going at it. That's Don't Train Me and Buff Priest. So make sure you come back in just a few minutes as the action will continue on all day here live from Orlando for the Major League Gaming 2009 PC Circuit played on HP.
Hi. I hate my phone. What do I do?